Hello, everyone, and welcome to our next interview. I love having this opportunity to really sit down and talk about how we bring our careers in line with our passion. How do we bring activism into our careers and into our profession, and where they kind of overlap? It doesn't mean always that everyone wants to start a vegan business. It doesn't mean that everyone is going to think about how they bring their veganism into their career because they're going to make a drastic career change. At times, it's about being the connector. At times, it's about bringing people together in your kind of industry, in your community, and bringing them together to do something great. And I'm really excited to have Aaron here today to talk about the work that Aaron's doing, about how 2020 might have been a little bit crazy for all of us out there. But the key here today is that we're going to learn about how Aaron has taken the approach of turning 2020 and this kind of pandemic world we're in today as an opportunity to bring people together through music. So, first, let me say thank you for being with me today.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'm very happy to be here.
So let's give everyone a little bit of background. Let's give them a little background on you, what you've been doing, how long you've been vegan, and also about your career as a musician.
Sure. So probably the thing, chronologically speaking, becoming a professional musician happened first. Um, I did become a vegetarian uh, 25 plus years ago, and I became a professional musician. Uh, well, I guess you could say, let's say 10 years ago. Um, around the same time that actually shortly after I moved to Seattle from Chicago, I started playing in bands. I did a little bit of that in Chicago, but I started playing in bands here in Seattle, and shortly thereafter, I got a job at the Seattle School of Rock. So I became a professional teacher at that point, and working there definitely pushed me forward as far as being a musician, being a performer, being a singer. I worked there for about 8 years, and and then I began teaching on my own. I'm still teaching on my own. Uh, I have a home business as a music teacher. I teach guitar and piano and vocals and songwriting. I'm a band coach to a number of my students and a few of their friends. Uh, and occasionally I get paid to make music for movies as well. And my main performance gig at this point is at retirement communities, um, for which I play, music from last century, covers, popular music from the mid-century of last century. So that's what I'm doing musically. That's what I've been doing musically as a business. And all of the money that I make, all of my bills get paid by music. So I consider myself very fortunate for that reason.
Absolutely. I think it's so wonderful when you can do something you're passionate about, when you love what you're doing. And also, I love the diversity of what you're doing and the different kind of groups and communities and individuals that you get to work with. I'm sure that can be extremely inspirational as well.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. It's playing at the retirement communities is the most rewarding gig that I've ever had as a performing musician. The audience is a captive audience, and they love what I do, and they get a lot of joy out of it, and I do as well. And yeah, diversifying as a musician, I think, is essential. It's some of the best advice that I ever got an ex musician. Um, was this idea of don't just try to be a rock star, be a teacher, be a composer, be a performer. Do all of the things. Um, and yeah, it's been a great career so far.
Oh, that is wonderful. So,
Yeah.
talk to me about how you brought veganism into it, how you brought activism in it. Like, what was that light bulb moment when you realized you could do it? And then how you kind of proceeded from there.
Yeah. So, right around just before the lockdown measures were imposed, um, I had I got this idea to start a vegan choir, and the inspiration there was the fact that I'd actually joined a choir in the fall of 2019, um, and they were a great group of people, and they were raising money for schools in Haiti, and there were about 90 members of that choir, and I don't know if you've ever sung in a choir, but being surrounded by that many people creating that sound is just an incredible experience. um, and I loved everything about it except for the fact that when there was like, oh, we're having a breakfast before this performance, or oh, we're going to go celebrate afterwards, then we'd be somewhere celebrating over carcasses of animals, and I didn't want to participate in that, so I didn't. Um, and then I had the idea of like, hey, why don't I start my own choir? It can be a vegan choir, and oh, hey, maybe we can even use it as an opportunity to raise money for um, causes as well, like you know, animal sanctuaries or something like that.
Hmm.
And so I began this choir. Vox Vegana began as a choir, uh, and it was just four of us in this space right here. And we
Hmm.
had a soprano, an alto, a tenor, and a bass. Although I'm not a true bass, I was singing the bass parts. Excuse me. And then yeah, that was like literally right before everything got shut down. So everything got shut down, and out of necessity, I decided to open up the group to anybody anywhere who was interested in creating vegan message specific music. Um, and this led me to connect with people all over the world who are interested in doing that kind of thing. Um, and also yeah, through connections that I had already begun to make with another wonderful group on Facebook called Vegan Music Makers. uh, I began to form this specific operation that I call Vox Vegana.
Now, walk me through the vision for Vox Vegana. Like, do you feel like you kind of know what you want to accomplish and do, or do you feel like this is a project that's kind of ebbing and developing as you go? The reason I bring this up is
Yeah.
because, our talk is always about pivot here when we do these interviews. And the idea is that we're always kind of pivoting, trying to feel things out. So I'm curious where you are on this evolution because, like you said, you started with one idea, he kind of graduated to a new idea, as we got into this pandemic world. That I'm curious, where do you see it going? Where do you see that possibility or that opportunity going?
Yeah, absolutely. um, so when Vox Vegana first began, it was just kind of like, hey, who wants to write a song with me? Let's write a song together. And we did. And several of those collaborations yielded some really wonderful results, which you can hear on our SoundCloud page, the Vox Vegana SoundCloud page. Um, and I don't know exactly what the turning point was, but I started to think about wanting to do some larger type project. And I've actually been involved in musical theater for a few years now. Um, I started as an employee music director and composer with a local group called Dandelion Drama. and, and they do after school musicals for elementary and junior middle schools that don't necessarily have like a musical theater program.
Okay.
Uh, so they work together with parent teacher organizations to put on these musicals. And so I sort of cut my teeth doing that with Melanie Lyons, is the founder of that organization, and we worked together and we wrote a couple of musicals together. one that was inspired by the School of Rock musical, and
Okay.
another one which was a long time dream of mine, to develop one based on an old Russian fairy tale called Vasilisa the Beautiful. My version is called Vasilisa the Ordinary. And so that was really cool. We put those together. They were workshopped at a local college. Um, and so I had, like these various, interests and things in my background: musical theater, making music, veganism, this, wanting to sing in choirs, and all of this sort of ultimately came together with like, hey, let's make a vegan musical. So this is the big project that we're working on now as Vox Vegana, and we're very excited about it.
Now, do you envision this musical as something that will be performed virtually? Do you envision that one day you might, be obviously selling out in theaters? Where do you think this might go? Or are you just gonna kind of, walk one foot in front of the other and see where everything lands?
Yeah, yes, all of the above. I, I, we definitely we want to see this thing go as far as it can possibly go. Broadway, Drury Lane, the world. One of our collaborators is a woman named Diksha Dixit, and she lives in Bhopal, India, and she's talking about translating it into Hindi. So we have a lot of long-term goals for sure. The short-term goal is to make a really really good musical, like to have a great book and really great music, and one step at a time essentially. But yes, we want to see it performed everywhere.
That
um
is wonderful. I'm sure
yeah.
as vegans are listening right now, everyone's like, everywhere, everywhere. They definitely want to see it. Now,
Yeah.
this musical, and I don't know if you've gotten this far, but is it going, when you say it's a vegan musical, is it more of the individuals that are involved? Is it more the topic that will be discussed? Is it more that through and through, we're going to kind of have that vegan compassion and ethics rolling through the musical, or have you defined it yet?
It's a very good question, and it reminds me that when I used to be a member of the Seattle Composers Alliance, and I'm still associated with them. Uh, and I posted on their Facebook page about how we were looking for individuals who might be interested in chiming in, and to be a part of this vegan musical that we're putting together. And somebody's question was, what's vegan music? Which is like, and it's like, yeah, that's a really good question. And it was a question that I found myself asking myself when I began Vox Vegana. What is vegan music? Does vegan music already exist out there in the world? How can music be vegan? So first of all, obviously, it's important to distinguish the fact that vegan is not a diet. It is a philosophy that has a dietary element, of course. Uh,
Mhm.
um, but yeah, veganism is a philosophy of unlimited compassion, of inclusivity, uh, and all of these things. And so I began to do some research. I'm like, okay, I remember there was a compilation that came out back in the day that PETA put out. Maybe we could do some of those songs. And there's some great music on that compilation, and some great artists as well. And then I went looking to see what other artists maybe had created, vegan message specific music. And I found a great song by Prince called Animal Kingdom. So that's something that I've worked into my personal repertoire. Um, and But there's an extraordinary lack of vegan message specific music out there, and this is something that is an integral part of what we're trying to do with Vox Vegana. Um, my response to the woman who was asking what vegan music was just that it's music that furthers this message of unlimited compassion, non-selective compassion. So the musical The idea is that the musical, at least initially, will be a creation of other vegans who are passionate about this message. But then eventually we want it performed by everybody for everybody. Um, it's this musical is not for vegans. It is for everybody, um, to better their understanding about what veganism means.
No, I think that's important and such an important thing for us to have. Patricia just dropped by and said that she loves the idea of a vegan musical. So it really sounds like our community is going to be very, very excited about this. Now, walk me through some of your inspiration, whether it's inspiration that inspired you to be vegan, any other inspiration that you're using to develop this musical, because I think it's wonderful to hear these backstories sometimes of the individuals, the books, the songs, that really have inspired us, especially when I think about that creativity around a musical.
Sure, absolutely. So, um, that part of a big part of the journey that our protagonist, although I've been calling him our ambitagonist, because he kind of at the beginning he's sort of the villain, right? His name is Keith Frankenberger, and he's a pre-vegan, meaning this is what I call non-vegans. I use the term pre-vegan. Um,
Okay.
so he goes to the camp, and he's the only one there who's basically like, "You guys are all crazy. I don't, like." He's very anti, right? And his big "I want" song is "Leave me alone, so I can just do my thing. These are the things I want to do. This is what I want to eat. Just leave me alone. My parents won't leave me alone, and now I'm at this camp where all these vegans are bugging me." Um, and his journey is definitely based on uh, things that I've seen other people go through, friends of mine in particular. And then there's another character in the musical who is like, he's like an angry punk rock vegan, and he's just really, he's very angry, and he's screaming a lot, and he sings a song called "Bear Witness" at some point. But he goes through a transformation too, where uh, he realizes that his own anger is like eating him alive, and so he's got to find a way to be more joyful and more loving, without giving up, what he's trying to do for the movement. And so this character actually is very very much based on me in a lot of ways, because that was me. That was me last year, and I think that's a lot of people. When they first discover veganism, they they've woken up from this trance, and they start screaming at the top of their lungs to anybody and everybody, even if they won't listen, and they end up alienating a lot of people, like I did. Um, and so, and I wish we were talking earlier about Colleen Patrick Goodrell's book, The Joyful Vegan. Had I
Yes.
discovered that and listened to that book a little bit earlier, I might still have some of the friends that I lost in the process. But this is, as per Colleen's instructions, this is my way of finding a positive outlet for what I'm trying to say, the messages that I'm trying to bring, using the skills that I have.
Oh,
Um, yeah.
that's beautiful. That is
So
beautiful.
I think I answered part of that question. Did I leave anything out?
No, I think it was great. It definitely
Okay.
gives me a sense of, some of the characters and the inspiration. And like you said, maybe putting some of your own personal experiences in it is
Yeah.
always helpful. And I love the idea that, you know, multiple characters are going to kind of go on that transformational arc.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just have like one pivotal character, but the idea that we all kind of grow through this process, I think is really exciting. So before
Yeah.
we started, I asked if you might give us a sneak preview into some of the music. I know the music is available on SoundCloud. And you know what we probably should do is drop a link for SoundCloud into the description. So if you give me that maybe at the end, I'll make sure that everyone gets access to it. But do you want to give us a sampling? It doesn't have to be long. Whatever, you'd like to share, but it'd be great to maybe hear some of the music.
Yeah, absolutely. So, not all of the music is available yet. In the process. We're almost done with a full sketch of the first act, and
Nice.
there's a lot of music. Not Hamilton a lot, but still quite a lot. Um, and it's coming together very well. But yeah, only like one or two songs from the musical itself are up on the Vox Vegana page on SoundCloud.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm not even sure that this one is the one that I'm going to play. So this angry punk rock character that I spoke of, one of his big transformational moment in the show happens when he like finally gets so mad at everybody in the camp because he feels like they're being so nice to this carnist who's in the camp, and he just doesn't understand why everybody's being so nice to him. And so he like storms off into the woods and where he like falls and he bumps his head, and then uh, he has this conversation with Mother Nature herself. And at the culmination of that conversation, they end up singing a duet together called "Back to Love."
Nice.
You're too beautiful to be hurting so. We must find our way back to love. You're too young to know such a tale of woe. We must find our way back to love. Love for one and all. Love without a wall. Love that doesn't draw a line, and love that goes beyond the border. You're so full of love. You must rise above. You must find your way back to love. Somehow we will learn the future will be earned when we find our way back to love. We will find our way back to love.
Oh, that was beautiful. If we weren't on a podcast, I'd start clapping really, really loud. Don't want to clap in people's ears. But
Thank
that
you.
was beautiful. And thank you for sharing that. I think sometimes it's so great to, feel the music. So it was just wonderful to not only hear it, but also see you perform it. It just gives me not only goosebumps, but just such warm feelings inside. So thank you for sharing that.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Stephanie. Thank you.
So, as we wrap things up, one thing I want to
Yeah.
make sure that everyone kind of takes away is that this musical is really built through a group of people, and this group of individuals is worldwide, correct?
Yeah, it is. So,
How has it been pulling together this kind of worldwide audience, or excuse me, worldwide participants to build a musical?
it's been really great. This was the opportunity in the crisis of last year was oh, I can't get together with people in my own hometown here, so we have to go online. And when you go online, it means that you can connect with anybody and everybody. So I ended up meeting this woman uh, named Mary Littlejohn, and she is the main book writer. She's up in Canada. The other person who's been helping us out, her name is Diksha Dixit. She lives in Bhopal, India. She is also the the creator and administrator of Vegan Fest India, and Vox Vegana musicians have actually performed live at some of her events online. Um, and yeah, it's been wonderful. I mean, obviously, when you're dealing with somebody who's in a different time zone, they're 12 and a half hours ahead of us at the moment in Bhopal, India. So we have to go. Okay, if we're having a meeting Monday night, that means you're going to be there Tuesday morning. Okay, I think we can make that happen. So it's been really cool. It's been really interesting, and it's fascinating to me that some of the people that I feel most connected with at this point in my life, I've never even met in person. Um,
Yeah.
and again, this is a silver lining of everything that we've been through over the past year and a half.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's been an amazing and interesting kind of gift, if I can say, of what we've been going through is the amount of people that we've been able to connect with and connect with worldwide. And
Yeah,
sometimes, even individuals that were local, but they just weren't in our local circles yet.
yeah.
That this has allowed us to connect has been wonderful. So, if people are looking to connect with you, if people are looking for ways to support the musical, support you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
The best way, well, you can send an email to Vox Vegana Choir at Gmail, and that's VoxVegana Choir, Choir, all one word. Vox Vegana Choir at Gmail. You can also find us on Facebook. You can find me on Facebook as Aaron Abolition. And I think you can actually message people through SoundCloud as well. So any one of those is actually fine. I will
Perfect.
respond to any of those. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Well, I'm so glad we had a chance to chit chat. I hope we've introduced some people to the idea that we need vegan musicals. And these are such important contributions, and also maybe inspired a couple of people to help them understand how they can use their gifts to drive the movement forward and connect with others. As we wrap up today, do you have any kind of recommendation or wisdom for anyone, especially as we're still a little bit navigating this pandemic? We're still navigating the world
Mhm.
right now, and it's so beautiful what you've been able to create from it. But I don't know if you have any lessons learned, any recommendations, or any final motivation for our audience as others continue to move forward and find ways to use their career, their passion, and their skills to impact the movement.
I would say just keep reaching out, connect with as many people as you can, Google search, like, I found you because I was like, I wonder if there are vegans on LinkedIn that I should probably try to talk to as well. And I actually ended up connecting with a lot of amazing vegan singers. I typed in vegan singer and I found amazing vegan singers on LinkedIn. I had no idea that was going to be a resource. Um, keep milking, for lack of a better term. Not a great term at all. A speciesist term, to be sure. All of the resources, uh, and uh, and be willing to put your faith in other people that share similar ideals. This was crucial for me in making these connections and making the music happen.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Aaron, so much for joining us today. It was wonderful to hang out with you. It was wonderful to be inspired by you. It was wonderful to hear a little bit of the music and also carry that with me even as I go through my day today. So thank you so much. And thank you, everyone else who's watched us live. If you're going to be listening to this as part of our podcast, please make sure you reach out to Aaron. Also, please make sure you support Aaron. This is a great opportunity for us to support something even while it's being developed, even while it's being brought to the world. So it's always great. I know sometimes we're always like, oh, I wish I had known when that was happening. Now you know that moment. So this is, I think, a wonderful thing to do to not only support but share and let others people know about the great work that Aaron and everyone at Vox Vegana is doing. So thank you, everyone. Thanks once again, Aaron, and we'll talk to everyone next time in our next podcast / live segment and edition of Pivot. Take care, everyone.